The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. You are comfortably zoned with me, the Zig Zag Man, in Alameda, California, right across the bay from San Francisco, across the moat from Oakland, in the great state of California. And I'm blessed. I, as usual, have the most interesting people on the planet to converse with. And today's no exception. HP, I won't call her Heather, HP Ryan is here from New York. How are you?
I'm okay. HR, actually, not HP. HP Lovecraft, okay. But well, HR Ryan, that's okay. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good, but I have to explain the HP and my Freudian slip. When I was a kid, we had a new camp director one year, and he introduced himself. My name is Hal Kobliner. Just call me Hal. And he became JPH. I confused it twice. So JP is in my head after 50 years. They never called him anything but just plain Hal the whole summer.
Okay, after all that.
After all that. So here we go. I really look forward to talking to you again. You were on 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we talked about our mutual friend, Mark Littell, and he passed recently, and he leaves a hole in my heart and in the network's heart, comfortably zoned. So reminiscing about him with anyone is always fun, but you knew him so well. Can you tell me and the audience something that may surprise us about Mark?
Oh, yeah, actually, I was just thinking about it today. He was into art. Did you know that?
Oh, no, I didn't. I have no
I didn't
idea.
Either. He commented on some stuff I had posted, famous women artists and to his Facebook, and he was commenting on it, and I started talking to him about it. And apparently, he when he would go to New York while he was playing, he had a friend at some art gallery there, and he would go in and look at the art, and he would, I think he bought a couple of pieces that were prints. And he was very interested in Western art, Remington and people like that. And at one point, the art gallery guy showed him. Sorry, go ahead.
I pictured when a Southern boy went to New York, he sat in his hotel room until the game started and went back to the hotel room and never experienced, just in general, the eclectic New York City. And New York is famous for a lot of things. Its art galleries in particular.
Right.
So I'm glad he got to experience that.
I was very surprised at that. And he also, I guess it's sort of, caricature on my part, thinking that baseball players are all yahoos who don't know anything about culture, but he did know something about it, and he did like to go out and explore the city, and he found various restaurants and stuff like that. So he was a big New York fan. At least that's what he told me. I don't know what he told anybody else, but
well, he might have mentioned it. I did like about 20 podcasts with him, as well as having known him back in the days when he was a minor league coach right after his career ended. And art doesn't stick in my mind. and how he related to New Yorkers. He was perfectly comfortable with me right from the start. So it doesn't surprise me that he would fit in a metropolitan city setting. Let's put it that way.
We talked about that a little bit because I explained to him that New Yorkers don't fool around with all the Southern stuff, all the kind of fake courtesy bullshit, and he's like, oh yeah, I know, I like people to be more straightforward, actually. So he appreciated the New York basically telling you fuck you to your face kind of thing. He thought that was a good thing, actually.
Well, New Yorkers think that the South is a hokey bunch of crap until they visited the South and find out they don't just think it's a hokey bunch of crap. It really, for the most part, is. So,
yeah, I tried not to be too bigoted in my feelings with him, but in terms of the Southern thing. But
no, actually, Mark came from Missouri, which is a border state, and he, more than anyone I ever knew, transcended the differences between the South and the North. Although that wasn't easy, and I didn't agree with all of his ideology, as I mentioned to you before, or as I've said on the network before. We chose not to go over stuff that would put either of us at ill at ease, because we knew we had only a certain amount of contact, over the course of a lifetime, and we had other interests, and I admire both of us for being able to keep that intact. God, I miss him. He was very, very special.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he was a lot more than he seemed to be on the surface, I think. And I didn't know him that long, less than a year, but we did get to know each other very well because I was working on this book with him. I was helping him edit it. And so, it was like word by word, sentence by sentence stuff, and we really got to I got to get into his head a little more than I would have otherwise, I guess. And he really wasn't as monochromatic as he might seem on the surface. He had a lot of depth to him,
right?
And he was interested in a lot of different things, and he was really very very interesting as a person.
As are you as a person, and I understand that you are continuing the book or at least attempting to continue the book that number 4, Mark's 4th book that was in progress. First, let me ask you, how far along did he get?
He got about, I would estimate, 3/4 of the way done with what he wanted to do, and there were a couple of pieces that he left unfinished that he wanted to go back to and work on. So one of them was about, or is about, his experience going to Cuba a few years ago. So I managed to get in touch with the gentleman who went with him. His name is Bill Franciscus. And so I spoke with him, and he filled me in on some other stories that happened during that trip. So I can complete the piece with Bill's input, with his his point of view, and combining it with Mark's point of view. So that's in the works right now. And
now you also spoke with Mark's brother along the way.
Yes, I did. I spoke with him a couple of times, and he wrote a very nice piece for the for the book, which is based on his remarks that he made, I guess, at Mark's viewing ceremony in St. Louis the day before the funeral. So he wrote up a little kind of eulogy, and then he expanded upon that and added some more stories and some more stuff, and it's really a very nice piece. So I kind of figure that would be the concluding piece in this collection. But we're coming along.
What was his brother like? What did he do in avocationally, and how are they different? And how are they the same?
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't know his brother very well. I've only spoken to him a few times, but he seems very similar to Mark in many ways. He sounds like Mark. He comes from the same background, but he was more of a academic character. I think he went to University of I think it was somewhere in the South. He went to University of Missouri, I think, and I think he went to Mississippi State. That's right.
Oh,
and he graduated and he went to I think he specialized in business sales, and he worked for a couple different companies, and he recently retired, and he did very well in his businesses. So he was a different kind of personality, I think, to Mark, and he told a very funny story about how he would always he was like Mark in the sense that he has Mark's sense of humor. He has a very leg pulling kind of wit, so he would get on the phone with Mark and start pulling his tail about baseball, because they both played baseball. He was Mark's catcher all through their
Oh,
years.
wow.
And but he wasn't as into it as Mark was, but he ended up playing for the college and catching for the college. But he would get on the phone with Mark and rag on him about baseball and how boring it is, and how they need to have cheerleaders on the dugout to keep people entertained because people are just falling asleep in the stands. And Mark would get all riled up about that. So he knew how to really yank his chain. And then he'd be like, no, they should play it like tennis and have 3 sets of 3 innings each, and whoever wins the first 2 sets gets to win, and then everyone goes home. And anyway, so Mark would get really mad at him and say, no, baseball is a perfect game. It doesn't need to be changed. So. But
that's an interesting thought. It is the perfect game, doesn't need to change. I concur with Mark, but Isn't that interesting? 3 innings, 2
3 times 3, 3 innings with 3 sets apiece.
And if it ends in 6 innings, fans get to go home if that's their goal. I mean, if you're going to modify it to please the impatient fans who come late and leave early, reminds me of LA fans. No, the game doesn't need a change in any more than we've changed it. Hey, let me tell you.
I just wanted to add before you went on. I don't think I've ever left a game early in my life.
No, of course not.
Why would I?
Why would you? They're playing baseball. And
I know, right? That's what I came to see, right?
Right.
The more the better.
They say you see something different in every game you go to, something new. What if that happened in the 2 innings that you left early?
Right, exactly.
And the baseball gods may not be pleased with an early departure by a true fan. So,
right, you don't want to antagonize the baseball gods.
No.
Bring their wrath down upon you.
In any way, and they're much more believable and powerful than any god with the face that we traditionally worship. So that's because I know from baseball gods, good, bad, and indifferent. Some get rained out.
Right. There is a whole pantheon of baseball gods, yes.
Yes, and there's a book in that somewhere, and an interesting book. I'll leave you to write it because I'm going to be taking a nap, so I can have. The more naps you take, the more wake and bakes you get.
Okay.
It's hard to explain to a lot of people, but if you're listening out there and you know me, a wake and bake is always good, and I'm sure you can confirm that. Mm-hmm. Nevertheless,
what were you going to say before I interrupted you?
I was going to speak. We talked about the possibility of you reminiscing us with some Ring Lardner, and I've been thinking about You Know Me All Al, the book he wrote, and how I read that as a real young kid, along with Vekas and Wreck and a few other books, Jackie Robinson's story, that really solidified my interest in baseball. And in human life, You Know Me Al. The character of that Ring Lardner gives us in that book explains a lot about humanity and how there's a lot of in our lives. There's a lot of just giving in to a lot of things. Mom, they threw me a curveball for the first time. I'll be coming home soon.
It's a very interesting character that he portrays because the audience, the readers know that the guy is not very good, but the guy doesn't know that, and he's meeting up with McGraw and everybody, and McGraw's kind of laughing at him.
He has self-doubts. He doesn't believe it, but he doesn't believe that he is good either. And that's how human nature is. It's and baseball reflects that. And one of the reasons I love baseball is it's a dichotomy of life. Or I think about this too: is life a dichotomy of baseball?
Yeah, right.
We may never know in this lifetime. Let alone a future lifetime, which will be fraught with many of the unknowns that we have now, because we as people don't change from generation to generation or learn from history, let alone read it sometimes. Anyway, so tell me how things are going in your life.
Oh, they're going pretty well. I'm still, I've finished editing Mark's section except for the Cuba piece, and now I'm collecting stories from other people, so I'm going to be doing that over the next several weeks, I guess, couple months.
Beautiful. Do you have an ETA of when this will be completed?
No, not really. I don't know anything about the process it takes to how long the process takes to make it into a book. We have a book designer who did his other 3 books, so I'm going to put it all in her hands when I'm done with it, and then see what she comes up with. So, but it'll happen. I'm pretty confident it'll happen because Mark wanted it to happen. But yeah, it's been kind of a stressful period just because I just want to make sure that he that his stuff gets out there in the shape that he wanted it to get out there. So, talking about the.
It sounds like you're doing it with excellence.
Well, I'm trying anyway. He was a real meticulous guy. I don't know if you ran into that with the podcast, but he was pretty much of a perfectionist in some ways, I think. At least with his writing he was. I don't know otherwise, but he was very perfectionist about the way things were going to look and the right word and everything. He was really very particular about that. So that's another interesting facet of his. He didn't just sort of, dump all this stuff out and publish it. He really worked on it. So I want to try to do the best job that I can do to make it work. But yeah, so you never noticed that with the podcast stuff. He's mainly just chatting, right, in the podcast.
Mainly just chatting. I keep it as just kibitzing, and which is something that I don't think many interviewers do.
Right.
So I pride myself on that. But it's nothing that I didn't do at the candy store, outside the candy store as a kid, when we discuss and argue and laugh and reminisce about baseball with other kids. And my podcast, the baseball part, is an extension of that. And the rest of it is an extension of that too. You just learn to communicate in a way that makes people comfortable, and I always felt comfortable in Mark's presence.
Yeah, he really was a very easy guy to talk to, and he liked to talk. He liked to chat. He would often call just to chat, not to talk about a piece that he was working on or anything. So it was just kind of like, how's the weather? What you doing? What you making for dinner? He was really into food and all that stuff. So he just liked to talk. He liked to get to know people.
Yeah, I wish we both had the opportunity to know him for a longer period of time.
Yeah, I do too. But I think about that sometimes, but then I'm reminded of the idea that, it all happens when it's supposed to happen, and we get the time that we're supposed to get with people, and that's we should be grateful for that and grateful for the opportunity to get to know somebody like that. So
the second part I agree with. We should be grateful for the time we spent with them, but there's no set way. It's not, you got the time you needed, that was it. Nobody controls that. I think. No. But hey, we could talk about Mark all day. And you're very interesting. Keep coming back.
Okay. All right.
All right. We'll talk again soon. And would you like to close it out in any way you'd like? Anything? Any last thoughts?
Let me think now.
That's something I rarely do, so it's appreciated by all that listen.
Well, maybe just to conclude, because you brought up Ring Lardner and the Busher, the pitcher who was struggling.
Yes.
And didn't. Not to compare Mark to Jack Keefe, I think his name was, the Busher, but there is a section in this new book that he wrote, which is about his experience in Puerto Rico when he was a young guy, like 20 years old. And he was in winter ball and pitching a lot. He pitched a lot that year in various places in the minors, and then he went down to winter ball and pitched a lot more. And he ended up with a sore arm, and that really threw him because he didn't really ever have this experience before. And it's a very interesting piece in the book where he talks about just like lying awake at night in his room, in his hotel room, trying to figure out what was going on with his arm and where he was going to, go with it and what he was supposed to do. And I think it was a very honest piece for him to write, where he reveals himself, and talks about his doubts and his concerns and not knowing the future. And I think that's true of all of these ball players. I mean, they don't know from day to day if they're going to get hurt or what, and it's a very tenuous existence, I think. I mean, we look at them as being kind of like, these superheroes, who can do anything and perform these great feats of athletic accomplishment. But, they're actually very fragile people, I think, in terms of their physical bodies. And I mean, it's got to be hard to not know what's going on with your body when it starts to hurt. And I think about that a lot with the various Mets who have come down with all kinds of injuries, And like, what do? You have to go to like the best specialists in the country and have him look at your elbow, look at your rotator cuff, all this kind of stuff. But it's all very scary stuff. So it'll be interesting when this book comes out for people to read that and kind of get an angle on what it's like to be a young pitcher and not know where your future is going to go.
I really look forward to reading the book.
Well, I hope I can get it done pretty soon, so I'll keep you posted. But anyway, it's been really nice talking to you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to chat. Always happy to chat with you.
That Kibitz is my name.
Kibitz.
Actually.
Right. Kibitz is your middle name.
My middle name, yeah. I'll chat baseball and life with you anytime, Heather.
Me too. That would be great.
Keep in touch.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.
Beautiful. Heather Ryan, Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. I'm Ralph Zig Tycho, and I'm the weak link of it all, but happy to converse with the most interesting people going on. Adios and happy trails.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned Network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.